welcome you guys to the Sleeping Giants podcast. This is with heavy heart doing this particular segment. This is Terrance and Mike. This segment is crazy, man. The whole situation with Tyre Nichols. What were your immediate thoughts when you heard about it, and then not only hearing about it, but being able to see the actual video?
Yeah, I mean, I'm one that has kind of taken the approach to where I don't really watch local news. I don't really watch national news because, you know, it's a lot of stories similar to this one that we're speaking on right now. And it's just a terrible situation. Uh I know that obviously there are five black men involved in this, and the sixth officer, who happens to be white, from what I hear, was recently fired as well. But it's just a travesty. The fact that we as taxpayers and as American citizens pay to have the people who are supposed to be serving and protecting us, and this is the type of stuff that we get. It's sad, and we've seen too many instances of this in the past, and this is just another example.
Yeah, his father put one thing to bed. I guess some people in the Memphis area were speculating that maybe him and one of the officers' wife may have had some type of relationship going on, that both worked at FedEx. But to me, being someone who is married, maybe I'm not saying everybody thinks or handles stuff the same way, but again, if what the father's saying is true, then it's not even a story. But just for hypothetical sake, even if that was true, well, he didn't go to the altar with you. Your wife did. So your wife is someone to be upset at if that's the case. But to me, even if it is the case, that's nothing for any other officers to even get involved with. You know what I'm saying? You should just talk to him as a man and not on the clock and just, hey, stay away from my wife or whatever. But, what they did, man, it's disgusting. It's crazy. Um, and from the reports I read, the guy was pepper sprayed. He's sitting there over 20 minutes with his eyes burning. I think the white officer who was fired was the one who finally assisted and poured water on his eyes. I mean, to me, that alone should be a fireable offense. And then you just got the guys talking, I guess not realizing that they're being recorded by Big Brother in the sky, and seeing them talk is to me is almost like they're trying to corroborate some type of story or something. He tried to grab my gun, he tried to do this, he tried to do that, and it's like, if the guy is cuffed, how's he trying to do any of this stuff? And I heard some people say, well, he didn't do what they told him to do at first, or he mouthed it off or whatever, but that doesn't justify any of this stuff. When you're handcuffed, being kicked in the head, being called a bitch. I mean, it's crazy, man. And this whole notion about comply or die, I don't think if someone gets sassy with a police officer, that gives the officer justification to violate your human rights. I just don't agree with that. I mean, you're not God. Obviously, every day we hear about officers getting fired. There is a reason why police departments have a internal affairs department. So obviously, police officers are not perfect, and they doing a lot of stuff that they shouldn't do. So they shouldn't be in any position if someone doesn't do what they interpret as complying. That doesn't give you the right to kill somebody.
No, I agree 100%. And I mean, there's also other reports that there was a young man who was involved in a similar incident, not to the extent, obviously, of what happened with Tyree, but in a similar incident a few days, maybe, before the video of Tyree was exposed to, the public. And he had called down to the police station to file a complaint multiple times. Nobody ever returned his calls. And so it seems like this is something that has been going on for quite some time. So if that's the case, then you know, I hate that it took obviously these types of incidents for it to be exposed, but it seems like this is not the first scenario or incident where those men have taken and abused their rights and abused their power when it comes to people that they're supposed to be serving and protecting. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's another video I saw recently. I think the guy involved is a rapper. I'm not too familiar with who he is or his music, but he got pulled over and his hands are lifted like this. And the cop was like, "If you drop your hands, I'm shooting you in the chest." It's like, what? Like, I mean, it's insane, man. And it's just like the approach that they come with people is just insane, man. I mean, so that officer is being investigated right now, and but they got to do better, man. What are your thoughts, Mike, about this whole notion? If you criticize either the police department or the military for something that you're not a patriot.
yeah, I mean, I just think it's ignorant personally. That's just my personal opinion. I have family members who have been involved in law enforcement. I have family members who have been in the military, so I'm still involved in the military. So my thing is, at the end of the day, you don't judge if one person does something bad. You reprimand that person. You judge that person. So for me to judge the whole military based on one person's actions would be dumb. For me to judge cops as a whole based on one person's actions would be dumb.
Mhm.
But on the flip side of that, for me to say, oh, well, just because I love my country or just because I want to seem patriotic, I'm going to okay everything that the military does or everything that the cops do is just as naive. So I just think people have to be realistic about what kind of battles it is they want to fight when it comes to politics and being patriotic and different things like that. Like ultimately being a patriot is being a good citizen. It's caring about your fellow man. It's paying your taxes. It's getting up and being a functioning member of society. Those are the things that make you patriotic. It's voting. Those are the things that make you patriotic, not praising human beings for wrongdoing. So
Right. Yeah, I think the thing that some people have to take into account too. I mean, there was a time where, I mean, cops, the dogs were put on people, fire hoses put on people and stuff like that. So that's not that long ago, so there needs to be a better treatment that goes on. And I think that what you said was right, like if one or you have a couple cops that's doing something wrong, those people need to be fired so they don't, spread that type of toxic energy within the rest of the police department. One thing I've seen, with my mom being a cop for over 30 some years and being around cops my whole life, that a lot of times when they do something wrong, you have a cover up that happens and they try to take up for that particular officer. And instead of getting rid of them and cutting that cancer out, they just let it spread by trying to cover up and end up doing more harm than good, in my opinion. But this story is crazy, man. I mean, another man losing his life over something that's unnecessary. I mean, I've seen other incidents where, somebody's doing something. I mean, to me, I mean, even if you felt like you need to tase somebody, pepper spray somebody, or worst case scenario, maybe even shoot somebody in the foot or something. I mean, is it always necessary? You aiming for the head, aiming for the chest? Um, in just several videos I've seen, it just seems like when you shooting somebody 20, 13, 13, 20 times, man, that's unnecessary, man. That's crazy. It's like you went in my opinion, with that intent, or you're looking for something to justify you murdering somebody. And it just seems like, I mean, we see it. Some people just can't handle power.
Absolutely. I mean, they say power corrupts, so or absolute power corrupts. So, ultimately, I think the most disparaging thing as a black person when you view a video like that and you see stuff like that happen, other than the fact that it's five black men doing it under the hiding behind a badge doing that to another black man, which is another point that I want to address too, but I'll get to that later. But I think the most disparaging thing initially when you see this is that, this young man wasn't doing anything. He's just driving. This is a routine traffic stop. And this is what, things get escalated to. Yet we see people who run in churches and kill people, and they get to walk out in cuffs and see trials. We see people who run in movie theaters and kill people, and they get to see a trial date. And somehow it just seems like in routine traffic stops, there are all of these black lives that have been taken, you know, and I can go down the list of names. I don't, I'm not going to do that, obviously, out of respect for what we're talking about in this specific situation. But I think that's one of the things that is just very disparaging. And I think that there really needs to be some kind of reform or, some kind of law that's made, whether it's a hate crime law or whatever needs to be done, but there needs to be definite police reform, some kind of laws that that make an example out of these dirty cops who want to go out there and exert their force and their power on people when they shouldn't. So I
Right.
think that that's something that needs to be addressed as well.
Yeah, yeah. And some of those guys you talked about, I mean, one of them got taken to Burger King and bought him a Whopper.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane, man. And I do want to address one thing. I've heard, obviously, studying this stuff, and I know the stats show that more white people are killed by police officers than blacks. However, there should be some type of, all stats are not true also, or stats can be inflated, but they need to provide context in what instances are those happening, with whites who are killed by police officers. I just want some clarification to know that particular stat, to get some more context on, or other races as well, because for some reason, with what's documented, most of the black situations that we've seen, a lot of these things have occurred at, traffic stops.
Yeah, yeah, too many of them, way too many of them. And I guess I'll go ahead and address the other narrative about how can this be called uh how is this police brutality, or even I've even seen some address it as white supremacy. How could this be white supremacy if it's five black guys beating up another black guy? And I think ultimately what you have to look at is the system that's in place. Ultimately, when let's take this back. When Jamel Hill on ESPN a few years ago said that the cops were basically descendants of the slave patrol, people got mad at her. She lost her job over that and some other comments that she made at ESPN, but she never lied, and that's the point. Like, there's so much of a fight to keep anything historical and any historical truths out of the school books, out of history books. Like anything that now talks about Black history, they label it as critical race theory and stuff like that. But that's another. I don't want to get too deep on it, but I think ultimately there has to be somebody has to look into the relation to police relations when it comes to black people, because we don't see these types of incidents happen nearly as much with our white counterparts, with our Asian counterparts, with our Mexican counterparts. But I mean, you can go to YouTube right now, and there's 5 years of videos of black people dying in routine traffic stops. So for me, at this point, it's not a isolated incident. It's at this point, it's a epidemic, and something needs to be done.
Mm.
And personally, I don't even mind saying it. I'm calling on Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to be the ones to do it.
Yeah, facts. We need legislation, like they have legislation for hate crimes for the LGBTQ plus community. My wife is Asian, so I remember a couple of years ago when they felt like Asian crime was on the rise. They had hate bills for that. There needs to be something done for sure. Um,
Absolutely.
and then too, with those stats about more whites are killed by the police than blacks, where are the videos? I mean, we need why are those videos being either hidden or not put out there? What narrative are they trying to push? I mean, all those things I think were, great dialogue points to talk about because yeah, it's definitely crazy, this whole thing. Yeah, I just know there was a couple police departments that have been where you have something called Vikings and kind of like Nazi paraphernalia and like indoctrination of that type of stuff. So if guys come in on that type of energy and vibe, and that's their philosophy, what do you think is going to happen? When they pull somebody over?
Absolutely. There's reports. You can look them up. Not you specifically, but anybody who's watching this video can look it up. There were major newspaper publications who did reports saying that there was an influx of neo-Nazi white supremacist people entering the police force. This is like 2011, 2012. People ignored it. And
Yeah,
now look what's going on.
yeah. Hey, I tell you, you know, not to try to lighten the mood, but I tell you a true story, man. Me and my Micah, who me and him stopped in Coleman one time, and was headed to Ohio. Was getting some gas, and this is my first time going up there. We stopped at the gas station to get something, and all eyes are on us. And I walked over by him and said, "Hey man, I think we may need to go up a couple more miles. I think we in the wrong town." And that's not that long ago. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, that's just going into a gas station. So I can't but imagine getting pulled over in that type of environment or whatever. And I remember I went to see my cousin play football, and I think this area outside of Auburn, is it Lochapoka, somewhere like that?
Hmm.
Um, I mean, it's like in the woods, basically. And I can't but imagine, being pulled over in those type of areas. Like there's not them many cars on those type of highways. You know what I'm saying? Like anything could happen. So even before and this is probably way before the webcams or the body cams.
Body
So
cams.
yeah, so a lot of times is your word against that officer's word, and sometimes you may be going in the courtroom. You don't know, um, what the judge energy is, what the jurors energy is. I mean, it's got to be something done better. You know what I'm saying, for all this stuff. With the way and we know. Like I've seen a lot of stuff where some judges have been paid money for the amount of people they can lock up. Some of the uh, like prison time that some people have served has been excessive. It's just a lot. It's just a whole system. It's just kind of crazy, man.
Well, I remember, obviously, and I'm sure you had the same talk from your parents as well. When you get pulled over by a cop talk.
Mhm.
So, you know, and just that in itself, you know, I don't even want to go too long on that. I'm just gonna say the fact that we get stopped in routine traffic stops, and so many times we don't even make it to pay a ticket or to go to the courtroom to see a judge. It's sad, and it's got to stop.
Yeah, facts, facts. Just two other things. I don't want to make this about me at all, but I can just speak from experience. I was coming from the city that I'm born in. I'm born in Clanton, Alabama, and I was pulled over by these two officers, and I mean they searched. everything in my car. I mean, my bags. I mean, like, what are y'all looking for? You know what I'm saying? And then I was very upset. My grandfather was like the assistant mayor, city council in Clanton, 30, 40 years or whatever. So, I immediately called the police chief like the next day, upset about it. Come to find out, this guy, I think he used to play football for my grandfather and was a classmate of my uncle. And then, so it's like you never know who you're pulling over as well. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And then when I was living in Ohio, I got pulled over so much. I got pulled over for jogging one time, man. I'm just running on the street, you know what I'm saying? And the cop just pulled up next to me, like, am I jogging in the wrong area? I live right here, you know what I'm saying? What are you talking
JWB,
about? Yeah,
JWB,
yeah,
jogging while light.
right. It's crazy, you know what I'm saying? So, those are the type of experiences that, I've had, you know what I'm saying? And but despite all that, I don't have hate in my heart for nobody or whatever, but sometimes, you get tired of being stereotypes, you know what I'm saying? Like, hey, we're not all selling drugs. We're not all thugs and criminals, and you just kind of get tired of it.
No, and see, I think that's once again one of the biggest problems. If you know a cop, every time he sees a black man or a black woman, is automatically thinking, "Oh, I need to be fearful for my life," then
Mhm.
that's a problem.
Right. Yeah,
Because
fact.
if we don't, that's a problem. And
Yeah,
I'm not even going to elaborate no more. I'm gonna just say that.
right. Yeah, and last point, I know the old saying is, the police officers just want to make it home. We do too.
Facts,
Yeah.
big facts. We have families too. We have people that care about us too. Tyre Nichols had a whole family that cared about him, and still does.
Right. Yeah, man. Yeah, rest in peace to Tyree Nichols, man. It's tragic, and
Absolutely.
hopefully, there's some justice that will come out of this. And I know nothing can replace, bringing, his parents' son back, or if he had siblings, their brother to come back, and all that. But so, prayers, to his family.
Absolutely. And Biden, Kamala, lawmakers in Memphis, yeah, let's start moving. Let's get something done because it's too. We've seen this too many times.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I know Judge Joe Brown is running for mayor, and I know he wants to clean up some of that stuff.
And I'm
And
sure he will too.
yeah, I think other people, they need to go down the list, man. I think other people need to be fired out of this whole situation as well.
Absolutely, the police chief. I mean,
Mhm.
from we spoke about off cam about some of the things that we heard about her dealings in Atlanta when she was the police chief there, and also spoke off cam about how there's tons of times where a person may work at one police department in California, do something wrong, and then they get moved to a police department in Montana, and
Right.
all of a sudden it's a clean slate. Like there need to be databases. There needs to be a Carfax. There needs to be Copfax. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? We
hmm
need that.
hmm Yeah, for sure. For sure. You shouldn't be able to escape, negligence. It should be something on somebody's record, and it should be documented. Like they have eternal affairs. You may need to have some type of other agency that just oversees, police departments in general, man.
Maybe hey, that's I think that's a great idea right there. You might be onto something.
Yeah. Yeah. So we thank you guys for tuning in to this segment. Again, our prayers and condolences to his family.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, I don't think this is the last time we'll be talking about some of these type of incidents.
Probably not, but hopefully, 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 I'll just say that.
Yeah. All right. We appreciate you guys for tuning in to this special segment. You guys take care.